tonight we are specifically celebrating Arlice's third book of poetry, Kind of Blue. Kind of Blue is published by Davenport Poetry Press. Arlice has two other books with Meadowlark Press and Meadowlark Poetry Press, Setting the Waves on Fire and Everlasting. They're great. This one is way different than those. Similar in its philosophy, but different in its style.
Absolutely.
And if you would like an additional free chat book of poems on the war in Ukraine that Arlice wrote, he has those. You might contact him for that. So come talk to Arlice afterwards. And we do have free bookmarks available too. Without further ado, Arlice Davenport.
All right. Thanks again for everyone being here. It's a privilege to be here in Emporia after we finally arrived and be able to read live here instead of behind my own little square space or rectangle space. The Zoom cubicle for all of us. So. Tracy Million Simmons is the great publisher of Meadowlark. She's not feeling well today, so I am going to fill in for her. It's a kind of love poem in a sense to my wife, but it's also, as most of my poems tend to be, kind of metaphysical in the end. Can't really get much better than that combination. So at least this one will fit the bill, and maybe some others you'll see also. So here we go. Deep and diffuse. Light filters through the bedroom window, casting a cross between us on the rumpled sheet. We commune with the dawn, beginning anew, thrown into the world, wondering and opaque. Jewels simmer in flames of orange and red, rays prism into the endless geometry of white. Colors shimmer between the lines of our love, sketch portraits of ourselves lying in wait, fevered and swift. On the table, oranges anticipate their morning departure, fragrant rinds, hemispheres of red gold, sucking delight. A ring of coffee fades the table, battered, scarred, from decades of use, the sheen of elbows, everlasting. I watch you saunter into the world, needing nada. How might underwrites your beauty, goodness, and mind. Light dwells in the habitation of the heart, deep, diffuse. It erases all doubts of identity, son, daughter of the day. Silence, one. From silence, we return to silence. Out of language, we reinvent ourselves. The other hears our sounds turn to words, turn to signs, turn sound. We speak only fire in the smoky village. I scrawl spidery marks on blank parchment, connect them to thoughts and things. Project meaning to sate my senses. I harbor strands of images and sources and substance and images ad infinitum. 2. A goldfinch balances at the feeder, silently dancing within. Feral cats prowl the premises, salivating for a taste of life, of death, of nature's violence. The bloody law, tooth, muscle, claw. In the distance, clouds gather in clumps of gray, heralding the deluge in which we shall drown. A saving ark remains buried in Genesis, the way forward lodged in the burning sky. Oh, to march in silence, serene and secure. 3. I juggle sounds like old skins of wine. They do not balance in the wind. Full, bottom heavy. Hemingway guzzled from them on a bus through Spain, headed for big-hearted fishing, a matter of life and death. as was any task for the wounded surgeon of prose. Driving an ambulance in the Great War, he died inwardly. A black shadow, ragged at the edges, followed him like a lost dog. Tail wags in silence, lures him to a shotgun in Idaho. Poetry is no match for death. Still, I write as though eternity descends in time. Now it's Lindsay Garcia's turn to dazzle us with her writing. Her reading. Her writing too. She's a poet. She's a published poet.
Thanks.
Sure, you're welcome.
I am going to read a couple of poems that I picked. Arlice lets his guest readers pick what they want to read, and so that's always fun.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to start with a poem called Orion after William Stafford, who is one of our favorite Kansas authors. The doe, long gone cold, looked weirdly back at me, her neck broken, her eye frozen in a wall-eyed stare from the pit of death. Her tawny hide bleached gray flecks of fur. She had bartered her beauty for one last sleep across the old wire fence. Yesterday, the hunters. Startled on my way back to the car, I saw her hind leg strangled in the top wire of fencing. Some farmer's pledge to stay a good neighbor. My shadow looked ahead of me in the glow of a sleepy-eyed sun. I was thinking how the river would wash away the blood from my hands. I was thinking about Faust and his fall. At the car, I looked back, the deer's eye black as sin. Now she would no longer search the night sky for the pointed tip of Orion's arrow. Now she no longer shivered in the winter winds. Behind me, 2 guns fired. Next, I will read a poem called A Darkening Sky. The scent of freshly mown alfalfa perfumes the purple night sky. My grandfather's ranch. No lights, no houses, no people or machines within 20 miles. He liked it that way. He rode his horses in the silent dawn. Massive beasts they accepted with small frame. The stables smelled of saddles and hay and newly planed wood. Nothing escaped his touch. He watched me ape his movements atop a painted pony. Tiny in the saddle, I tried to exert my will, right and left. No signal reached my partner. The horse loped around the corral, hoping for food or rest. When he died, my grandfather left a long legacy. His spirit populated the vast, rolling prairie. His horses sold to respectful townsfolk in need of lively companions. I never mounted a horse again, although the feeling of height and weight and power stayed with me. Cowboy ways are not the poet's ways. We lift words off the page, only to settle them back in place, meaning what they will, never reined in to turn figure eights against a darkening sky, never held fast to follow a mapped out route, never led to water they would not wish to drink, never silent in the wake of purple storm. Great job, Arlice. Thanks. Next, we will have Roy Beckemeyer read.
Thank you. I want to thank Arlice for choosing me as one of his readers. The first of his poems that I chose to read is one that's sort of homage to the English Lake District poets. And I think it gives you a very nice feel for how Arlice feels about those poets and how it felt to be there walking the same paths that they once walked. So this is titled At Play in the Fields of Existence. 1. Shadows don black overcoats, fedoras, and masks. They travel under the noonday sun, trailing them through time, a bright undercurrent of gold. I have embraced the being branches of oaks as they rise to scrape the sky. I have exchanged stanzas with the whispering winds who chant only the glory of change. England witches waters to fill the brilliant lakes that Coleridge and Wordsworth sang. I circle Rydal water in a typical nor'western downpour. Even stale, lichen-stained caves offer no relief. 2. Poetry is a trail that only prophets can walk. Visionaries sketch out revelations on black slate boards chained to schoolhouse desks. Wordsworth carved his name into one, a pair of crooked W's. My overcoat is black, my fedora and mask too. I join the single file of shadows. They shuffle toward Ambleside and splash blue tides on lake beds. I could write a glorious poem, but then I would be known outside the circle of black, alone on the fells, searching for water to wash myself clean. And the second poem I chose because not only is Arlice one of my favorite poets, but Gerard Manley Hopkins is as well. And I also like this poem very much because it draws on 3 lines from Manley Hopkins' famous poem about kingfishers, one in the epigraph, 2 other lines concluding the penultimate and ultimate stanzas of Arlice's poem. So let me read the epigraph first. As kingfishers catch fire, dragonflies draw flame. Gerard Manley Hopkins. The kingfisher. Here in the great marsh of solitude, where each step sucks up a sludge of mud and withering reeds, I search for the kingfisher who spears his prey with the speed of light, swallows it whole, then clown walks through waves that lap his anorexic knees. Hopkins sets the bird on fire, iridescently burning through his unmanacled poem. Immanence and transcendence meld like bronze and steel. Creation, one glorious feat, one marvelous miracle splashing apart beyond our imagination. With the kingfisher, we cry, what I do is me, for that I came. I have slogged my way through muck, undeterred by slow progress, undefeated by the path alone, the path without end, the path of unrequited promise. No companion darkens my way, no mind nurtures my own. Trailing the kingfisher, I trudge and slosh. Selves goes itself, myself it speaks and spells.
This is the crack in the mirror. My voice lost deep inside me. I silently stare at the looking glass. Staring back is the face of Narcissus. I strain to recognize the eyes, a deep sky blue, but no, they are not mine. My thoughts lost deep within me. I meditate on mystics who teach that virtue can cheat death. I struggle to discern the immortality of my goodness, but notice only the fevered crack in the glass. It too is not mine. My dreams, lodged far beyond me, I call to them to return to the surface of my mind, as immortal as the good, as untouchable as the mirror image. I close my eyes to conjure them, but the scenes are not mine. My hopes, linked tight beside me, glimmer like raindrops in the sun. I grasp at reflections of tomorrow, curved pictographs of what could come. I clench my fist to capture them, but they glide away into the mist, that can never be mine. Dawn's new name. Fields of light flicker as night descends. The encompassing fills black holes, doles out excess riches across the leaden sky. Trees lower their arms in quiet rest. Skeletal fingers scratch out calligraphy, a palindrome, Dawn's new name. A traveler raises the shade on his room's unpainted window, unfurls shutters, imbibes the drunken fragrance of rain. Brushstroke shadows spread along the wall. He splashes his face, towels away a residue of soap, his visage renewed in a portraiture of hope. How he yearns for a cup of freshly brewed coffee, for the taste of promise on his chipped white plate. Light births the day, a hairline crack in the mirror. Black becomes the new white. The encompassing dons a robe, stitches in Dawn's new name, Eve.
Anvil. I remember the anvil, unrung for years, a monolith of iron, its silver sheen glistening from the hammer's glancing blows. I remember the ragged window screens letting in butterflies, patchworks of orange and blue. They knew not where they were or why the house stood. And already it was time to leave summer season for sticky skies and uncut grasses, season of woods and waters, season of no season. And already it is time to return in winter season of icy rooms and quilted nights, season of driving south on 2-lane roads, cutting through blue mountains, all fly away on the radio. The anvil rings out from nowhere and everywhere, unmuffled by its sawdust bed, unruffled by the rough-hewn loft pitched high above me. A dusty sheen pushes its way into cobweb shadows, my uncle's work gloves on the anvil, a disarray of leather, dirt, and tears. And already it is time for morning, broken hands and unseen dreams, this season of no seasons about to depart. Heavy as stone. 1. Footholds on the wall fill in like skittish gull prints at low tide. All form vanishes into liquid. All liquid cements into form. I have climbed over stones larger than the world. I have cradled egos in crooks of trees. I have brushed against the void before crumbling into dust. Fluorescent meadows feed throngs of cattle and sheep. Bells punctuate the air with an abstract melody. Soon, birds will echo it as they mate. 2. I have built altars unknown to the wind. I have recorded voices of angels in my sleep. Fear not. Abandon yourself to the road still taken. Cultivate simplicity. Harvest joy. The wall divides this life from the next. Its footholds have vanished. Waters wash over the surface like mountain streams. I catapult into the future, boxing solid air. Starlings flutter, lie dead on the road. The sky will not buoy them. The earth claims its own. There is no joy on the mountain, only simplicity. I carry it away, heavy as stone.
Big two-hearted river. Hand the horizon sandy hillocks that hide the heaving sea. Breathe in the effervescent spray of brine soaked into the blustery breeze. Fruits congregate like captives of a hooded inquisition. Watch them sweat and blink. Waves spray paint the sand in vanishing fringes of white. I splash through what remains of low tide, searching for je ne sais quoi. Baptism protects from darkness within, but the sea is no respecter of persons. It sucks up shadows, spews them into blacker depths, dog, paddle, or drown. Shells litter my path, small creatures freed of form, ready to reinvent themselves, but powerless to crawl into the future. An orange peel perfumes their bed, unmade in the open air. Light dances on their new home, seeping from within, a nascent exoskeleton, impotent shield from despair. Clouds, plump with rain, collide midair. Their underbellies link in conspiracy against the land. My pilgrimage advances uneasily, the map long thrown aside, the X turned Z, smeared by clumsy thumbs. I cut rough bread, pungent cheese, a half bottle of, and I can't read that word, half bottle of a word that I cannot read in my pack. The big two-hearted river irrigates my mind. Hidden hillocks hold back the sea. East of Eden. 1. How the bridge spans currents of eternity. How time crests the waves of lowly human pain. Silence, obedience chisel into worlds of devotion. Turn toward the flaming sword that casts Adam east of Eden. Turn toward the forbidding fruit that lies rotting on the ground. Evil has no home until our will lodges it in history. We choose solely in passionate ignorance. We seek nothing but the dreamlike good. Impulse makes real what would otherwise not happen. The insidious sovereignty of sin, blackened spoils of freedom. 2. Now trotting the mucks of trails in nakedness, now without shame, fully present in the garden, fully creature before God. Who can dwell in joy without the coil of hubris? We slither along these paths ever alert to the mortal other, who speaks loss of innocence, who spins spells of cupidity. Each reflection beams the face of Cain. Each decision robs us of nature's sanctity, the bounty of being spread before us like a great banquet, the marriage supper of the Lamb. Grant serves freedom, masters deep chests of coal. All things fill the nothingness of self. Few make the world habitable. 3. Stellar ships sail under the bridge, cast shadows far from the muddled shore. Dark streams carry the pain of desire beyond the confines of love. Ecstatic foam breaks on the bank. Empty canoes float idly by. What passes for strength is but algae feeding, hand-hewn wells. Living water cleanses into new life. Adam abandons the old, trapped in the Elon vital, his veil of pain. We do well to heed the moans, his sermon of errancy and doubt. Purple berries trampled underground, seeds buried in soil. Trees flourish without Adamic names. Birds serenade in clear, high notes. Life moves of its own accord, pressing ever outward, past Eden's eastern gate.
Thanks again for being here, everyone. And for those of you who are here on Zoom, thank you. For those who aren't, we'll talk later. Okay, I'm going to read a few poems here, more than 2, but less than I intended to start with. So you'll be thanking me by the end of this reading. No, I'm just joking. I hope you won't be thanking me for that. Okay, I am going to read the title poem of the book, Kind of Blue. Anybody know what that title is a play on? Miles Davis, famous album from 1959 that revolutionized jazz trumpeting. It went to a modal jazz, and it really has never looked back since then. It's a fantastic CD or album at the time. I'm not saying this lives up to the title of his album, but that is where I got my inspiration. Kind of Blue. 1. The promise of creativity flows like rain pebbling the roof of the study where your untidy poems lay. A glance backward sweeps the world, as rotund as an orange, as blue as the books we pack in refrigerated boxes, a deep cyan, Darkest night settles over the city. Indigo streets, limbed avenues, dreams, encased dreams. 2. Waters wash over me, a placid azure stitched with maroon and gray. I marvel at them in autumn on the streets of Scotland. Blood red moon ascending over Edinburgh's castle. Black, black sky. The fingerprints of God pressed into burnt out sun. Novas, nuevas, nemor. I would tally the containers, but the abacus is broken. All numbers equal 9. Aquamarine brings green to bear on the equation. 3. Salt seeps through the hollows of walls. The room interrogates itself in pools of seaweed, soft-shelled crabs, angular gulls. You know the ocean's rhyme, but the meter is skewed. The skewer heavy with charbroiled fish. No plates, forks. Sea reflects sky, reflects sea, reflects a kind of blue, exonerates my mood. Trumpet trills shrink the shallow hue of veins. Blood pumps blue, pumps red, pumps life on the cathedral steps. O negative breaks positive. I will sweep up the pieces, paint them steely blue. Does anyone know what Zabriskie Point is? Anyone been to Death Valley National Park? All right, Zabriskie Point is one of the attractions. It's beautiful. Death Valley is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Okay, this is inspired by Zabriskie Point, one of my favorite lookouts there in Death Valley. I think an overlooked part because of its reputation. Death is not the most inviting term when you're describing a national park. But you go at the right season and there's no death for you as a traveler. All right, Zabriskie Point, 1. The mind replenishes itself in stark pirouettes of light. Body kisses soul, the inrush of blood, tingling, desire, the broken mirror of touch. Oh, how eternal union eludes us. Oh, how the night sweeps up pieces of dawn, scatters them like stones from a cairn toppled by the wind. 2. Fleur-de-lis, fleur-de-mal, hammer the cymbal to clang like a gong, hammer the hearer to echo like a gorge, life, knife, strife. Immortality swoons at the grave of a blue moon. Ask for excess, more than you could want. Ask for redemption from being unto death. Throw yourself back into the world. Urge the other to shepherd what is. Urge the other to shadow what is not. Urge the other to care for the great mystery. Toward the end of my book, I have a short essay about the power of the natural image to carry a poem, how it can carry its ideation, its metaphors. Everything the poem needs can be found in the natural image. This is the first poem I wrote after writing that essay. So you tell me whether you think this holds up. If you think it doesn't hold up, please don't keep that to yourself. I'd appreciate that. All right, this is called Crossing the Field. The chill in the air haunts the black stones washed clean by the tepid river. It flows past cottonwoods that carry their mortal burden on their heads. They speak only in sign language, mincing words a human could not say. The ice floes have melted, the rain stopped, little moisture but my belabored breath crossing the field. Pheasants take flight, field mice scurry. The chill means nothing to those ensconced in the earth. I have left and returned, smelling of honey and smoke, aromas of belonging, that I cannot say where I have eaten the bitter fruit of not being there. I carry my mortal burden on my back, wet with winter's chill. Fires line the woods, the pond blazes over. I look far afield, but must camp alone. All right, this is called, well, let me just ask this. Does anyone know what the word flaneur means, the term flaneur? All right, good. It's an urban term. Flaneur, it's a French term. It means basically walking through a city, assessing its attributes, absorbing its spirit, the way it's laid out. And this is talking about being a country planner, doing that with the country. Oh, it's not a humorous poem. So I know it sounds a little humorous in the title, but we'll see if it makes any difference. This poem is inspired by V.S. Naipaul, who is not a poet, but he is a great writer, even though many people dislike his personality. He still is a great writer. He came from Trinidad to England and won the Nobel Prize eventually. So this poem is inspired by him. Return of the Country Flaneur. This is the beginning of things, the idea of emptiness, life forces pushing past the void, incarnate in kaleidoscopes of creatures, precursors to the cargo of Noah, emissaries of the eternal yes, combatants with the infernal no, moving gracefully beyond them, wrapped in mist, I cross the infinite gales. Gathering glyphs of a summer dawn, like fossils encrusted in tawny fells, like sheep grazing yellow-green pastures, curving lazily past Yorkshire villages. What gifts do I bring to this beginning? How many leagues have I traversed for such a view, enduring my own folly and strangeness, the quarrelsome gait of a country flaneur, a shaded lane leads off a road I do not know. The new way there soon gives out, only shadows spill from whitewashed fences, only golden stone houses tout perfectly thatched roofs. The terrain turns rugged, birch trees guard the upward slopes. I reach a break from the woods, see infinity in the middle distance, dull reflections in mirrored distance, the ordinary emptiness of an ordinary dawn. How many leagues have I traversed to know it? All right, this is my final poem this evening. It's also essentially the final poem of the book, except for some postlude poems that I include. I like this poem very much, and that's all I'm going to say about it. Prodigal Words is the name of the poem. We knew there were better words to use before the parting, circuitous, arcane words, words disconnected from the shielded glances we cast back at the wounds in the woods. Bear traps lay open to rust. Dead stalks of willow crowded the pond. It glistened in the breeze. White ridges over brackish green. When the deer came, we drank mulled wine and celebrated the return of living flesh, of life not resigned to winter's bleak box of death. Then we needed prodigal words, words of betrayal and return, words of forgiveness and regret. Now with the windows shut against the cold, no words can enter, none know why they must die so young in the breath that bursts them. Thank you all for being here and for patiently listening to these poems and for humoring us that the invisible readers did a great job too. I will have door prizes for a lucky 4 of you. So if you have my book And why don't you have my, you have to put it down at this point and not refer to it again.
Arlice, thanks for another great book. I'll be watching closely for the next 3 or 4. Congratulations.
I thoroughly enjoyed every poem and I cannot wait to get a copy.
Barry says, excellent work. Thanks for the terrific reading.
I wanted to ask Arlice about his writing style,
Yes.
or more, what is your writing schedule, Arlice? Do you try and write every day?
Oh, yes, I write every day, usually early in the morning. After I get up, before things get hectic during the day.
Mm-hmm.
I write and write and write and write. I mean, I'm retired. I don't have that much else to do, so I just put my whole energy into writing for right now.
Are you writing on the computer or do you write longhand?
Oh, no, I always write longhand, and then I, in my clumsy typing, try to transpose it to the computer.
Right.
But no, I always write in longhand. I think that's the only way to do it because it gives you a tactile sensation, the words sort of coming through your body. And I think that's really important. So that's the way I tackle it.
That's the same way I do as well.
Oh, well, that's why you're a success. Well, I have some door prizes. I said I would have some door prizes here. So I want, I've got 4 great books, one from the new poet laureate, one from Louise Glick, our national or our Nobel laureate, and then one from A.E. Stallings, her book Like. I don't know if you've seen that. It's a great book too. So here's what I'm going to do. I want everyone to guess. I guess I'm getting cut off here. How many of my poems are in the book?
I'll say 40.
40. Okay, good guess. 45.
54.
You are right on the money. Did you
Oh.
count them?
Look at my
cow.
hands. I have no book.
All right, I still have 3 more. How many poems are in there by another poet?
I'll just say 5.
Okay, that's a good guess. Anyone else?
3.
10. You got it, bud. The answer is 1. Edward Thomas, my favorite poet, English poet from World War I. Guess my age.
You're retired, so you must be at least 65.
I think you might have let drop something like 7.
67.
Ooh, Bob Dean, you are the author of a beautiful book of poems by the Nobel laureate, Louise Glick, one of my favorite poets. I have 1 book left. Who would like it? You want it? Sure. You got it.
Thank you all for coming. You can find Kind of Blue at the Meadowlark Bookstore, which is www.meadowlarkbookstore.com.